The Buckeyes suffer a 16-point loss to the Hoosiers of Indiana. An Ohio State coach gets fired. And will we see more coaching changes? All that and more in this episode of Locked On Buckeyes.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Friday, January 7th in the year 2022, and I want to thank every person out there for making Locked On Buckeyes their first listen of every single day. Let's take a trip in our minds back to our playing days. No matter if you played baseball, softball, volleyball, basketball, football, soccer, hockey, doesn't matter what sport you played or maybe you're playing right now, but let's take a trip in our mind back to our playing days. There was a game you were playing and your leading scorer was struggling to put the ball into the basket. If it's hockey, the shots that the guy would normally make weren't going in. If it's baseball, the guy who basically hit 3 times out of 4 times that bat wasn't hitting anything. The next thing you know, the second guy that's there, second leading scorer, second best player, he's on the sidelines injured. And the next thing you know, your head coach is looking at you asking, wait, how can I assist you? And you're looking at yourself saying, why am I being asked by the head coach to assist, to figure out what we can do to put points on the board for us to win this game? Now, the last part was not a part of this game here, but the first part was. Ohio State and E.J. Liddell. E.J. Liddell had 11 points against the Indiana Hoosiers, and the Hoosiers won by 16 points, 67-51 in their battle on Thursday evening in Assembly Hall. Ohio State is still without Justice Sueing. So E.J. Liddell is struggling to put the ball in the basket, struggling in different ways in the game against Indiana. The second leading scorer, the second best player, is not available. And Ohio State throughout this game, when you add into it the defensive pressure that Indiana put on the Buckeyes, it was a recipe for disaster. The leading scorer in this game was not E.J. Liddell. The leading scorer, well, for the Buckeyes, that was not in the game, but for the Buckeyes was Malachi Branham. But he only shot 5 of 13 from the field, 13 points, 1 for 3 from downtown. That was it. Those are the only 2 scores that the Buckeyes had that were in double digits. Justin Orange added in 6 points. Meechie Johnson added in 7. Joey Brunk added in 6. Then Kyle Young with 3. Jamari Wheeler with 3. And Zed Key with 2. This is not a recipe for success for Ohio State. It does not matter who they're playing. If your leading scorer only has 13 points, your second leading scorer has 11 points, I don't know who in the Big Ten Ohio State is going to beat with that formula. It was a struggle bus. Now, you have to give credit to where credit is due. Indiana's defense is one of the best defenses Ohio State will face all year long. This is a test and a battle that Ohio State needs right now, number one. But number two, Ohio State will see Indiana down the road. I believe Indiana comes to Columbus. That date is on the 19th of February. So this is not just a test that Ohio State does not need, won't see again. One, they definitely need this, and they will see this team down the road. Luckily, it's a luxury that Ohio State will host the Hoosiers the next time they see them, and so they're able to build up on this and have the home crowd behind them. The difference maker in this game was Trace Jackson Davis. Trace Jackson Davis, he had 27 points on 11 of 17 shooting, 12 rebounds. He had the number of blocks he had escapes me. I believe he had 2 or 3 in this game. He was a huge difference maker and a huge problem for the Buckeyes. It didn't matter if Zed Key was guarding him, Kyle Young was guarding him, who was back. in this game, or if it was Joey Brunk, even EJ Liddell. Did not matter who was guarding Trayce Jackson-Davis. He was a problem for Ohio State, which is also trickling into the hustle stats category. We talk about them numerous times while talking about basketball. Ohio State lost numerous categories that fall into hustle stats, and that's a good reason, a big reason why they lose this game. Points off turnovers. Indiana 16, Ohio State 10. Total rebounds. Indiana 41, Ohio State 33. Indiana also added in 11 offensive rebounds. Second chance points, Indiana 9, Ohio State 2. Points in the paint, Indiana 38, Ohio State 10. Fast break points, Indiana 17, Ohio State 7. Blocks, Indiana 6, Ohio State 3. You're very intelligent listeners of the podcast or viewers via YouTube. You are very smart. You know your basketball. You know your football. That's one thing I love about Buckeye fans. They are not a fan base that is not intelligent, that does not know about what's going on play by play, day by day, second by second when it comes to keeping up to date with their team. You guys are very intelligent. And if I told you nothing else about this game, the things that happened previously, the whole analogy that I used earlier, all of a sudden, if I just told you Ohio State lost, let's go back through this. A team lost in the points off turnovers category, the rebounding category, second chance points category, the bench points category, points in the paint category, fast break points category, in the blocks. You would probably think that team is going to lose the game or that they lost the game. Well, the team lost the game. The Buckeyes lost by 16. Could have been worse. Trayce Jackson-Davis was not only a problem in the first half, also in the second half. And this is something that I knew was going to happen at some point throughout this year based off the makeup of this team. I truly wonder how soon Chris Holtmann will go out either in the transfer portal or via recruiting and get a big man. Because a big man, a true big, Zedke is 6'8", 250. But Trayce Jackson-Davis is a different beast, a different animal. There's only one of them, but there are different guys, different teams throughout college football that I do believe will be able to pick on Ohio State down low based off of the personnel that Ohio State has. This isn't a conference or where you can have small little stretch five. No, now Zeke's not a stretch five, but also defensively, he's not that guy just yet. Now, he's getting better defensively, but Trayce Jackson-Davis is going to have his way at times. Ohio State loses by 16 points. 16 points. Nothing ideal. But this is one of those games you can grow from, learn from, and get better from immediately. You are tapped into Locked On Buckeyes here on a Friday, this Feel Good Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. For everyone watching via YouTube, thank you so much. The subscriptions keep on coming in, keep helping the show grow. Hit the like button on this video. Hit that subscribe button so you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video is uploaded and when a new show is live. I just used the phrase Feel Good Friday. Didn't even realize that the next segment was about to be a segment where a certain member of the Ohio State coaching staff is now a former member of said coaching staff because he's not feeling good about his current employment status because he just got fired. Coach Stud. One thing I don't try to do is pronounce names that I don't properly understand or can pronounce, so I'm not going to pronounce it. But Coach Stud, the former offensive line coach at The Ohio State University, has been fired. This is one thing when I talked about coaches that could be fired or could be replaced. I didn't mention Coach Stud. I didn't mention him at all. I don't know why. I thought that there were certain things that maybe, just maybe, it would not have been him. You keep him around. Maybe Kevin Wilson, he gets one more shot, and Kevin Wilson kind of gets under him and starts to implement more of the offensive line things that Kevin Wilson implemented when he worked directly with the offensive line throughout different stops throughout his coaching career. But this year for the offensive line was not up to par. Let me get back to my notes here really quickly. We just went through the coaching grades for the offense, and myself and Jeff Hunt were here too. Jeff will be here next week as well as we go over the defensive grades. But Jeff and I both gave the offensive line this year a B, could have easily been a B- for myself or a C+, just based off things that I had seen from this team this year, the offensive line, that just weren't up to par. Also, I know recruiting has not been up to par as well. I do believe those two things together, just the offensive line play this year, going into last year, and then also the recruiting that needs to go up, needs to continue to go up. You always want to continue to get better. Ohio State, I do believe, gotten better, going from Urban Meyer's retirement to, then retirement, to going to Ryan Day, going from Zach Smith to, I believe it was at the time, Brian Hartline. Even though Zach Smith left under some unfortunate circumstances, Brian Hartline, and Zach Smith will say this, Brian Hartline was or is an upgrade. Tony Alford doing a phenomenal job. Corey Dennis doing a phenomenal job. You want to always continue to get better. And Coach Stud going out at this time, I do believe Ohio State can get better. But if you go back to last year, this is maybe a 2-year problem. If you go back to last year, there are some things going on with the offensive line that just didn't make any sense. Why in the world is it that there's a guy by the name of Harry Miller that continues to be the weakest link and nothing changed? Why is it this year, at the beginning of the season, we see that we are using 2 offensive tackles and offensive guard, different skill set, different body type, all the things we have described numerous times throughout this show, but we're putting guys that aren't built to be inside of an offensive line, they can do it, but are they the best options? Probably not. The offensive line would have absolutely been better. You put Thayer Mumford back at left tackle, where he said this is where he is more comfortable. You put Nicholas Petit-Frere at right tackle. That's where he is very comfortable. You put Matt Jones at left guard, where the offense could flourish. If you even put Donovan Jackson at right guard, I do think a big problem with the running game this year was on Coach Stud, because the running game was not up to par based off how the way things have gone with the offensive line. Oh, we're not done. There's numerous things we could talk about, how there were things that happened last year that trickled into things that happened this year, which is where there are coaches that I do think should be gone based on that. Stick around to segment number 3. We'll get to that very, very quickly. But Coach Stud being gone, I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think that Buckeye fans should go crazy. Remember how we just stated that you should always be striving to get better. Always be striving to make strides to be better. Even if you fire somebody, the next guy should immediately take things up. Immediately take things up. And if that doesn't happen, it's either maybe he messed up or maybe you made a bad hire. Maybe he is who he is, and the person and you hiring him is just showing you have to alter your hiring process to bring in somebody else that can take you to a level that you are currently not at. There's a report that the next Ohio State offensive line coach is currently at UCLA. His name is Justin Fry. You may have seen on Twitter different people that were using different GIFs of French fries. Well, that's where this comes from. Justin Fry, he has been coaching in the coaching profession since 2007. He was a grad assistant at Indiana from 2007 to 2008, also a GA while Urban Meyer was down in Florida. Also coached with Zach Smith, who I just mentioned, in 2009 and 2010. But he has been an offensive line coach the rest of the way. At Temple, also, I believe, Temple and Boston College, I believe that overlaps with the time that Ryan Day was in the Northeast. Offensive line coach at 2018. Since 2019, he has been the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach at UCLA. If it is not Justin Fry, it could also be Kevin Wilson, the current offensive coordinator and tight ends coach at Ohio State, could dabble and but work more with the offensive line. He spent time coaching the offensive line at Oklahoma from 02 to 05, co-OC, and then the offensive line coach. Also, he was the offensive coordinator and O-line coach from 92 to 97 at Miami of Ohio, solely the offensive line coach at Miami of Ohio from 1990 until 1991. Also, 1988 at North Carolina A&T, and then Winston-Salem State. He spent time coaching the offensive line there as well. one thing we forget about Kevin Wilson is he's been around a while. This is not just somebody that wasn't a coach at Indiana, was not a good head coach, and then realized I need to go back to being an OC. He has been around a while, seen a lot of football, seen a lot of transitions in football. Think back to the 80s and 90s, more of different style of football, different brand of football that's out there versus what we have seen now. And he has transitioned a lot. I do think Justin Fry is going to be the next offensive line coach based off the reports. It just hasn't been officially announced just yet, with this being recorded. This timestamp, this 2:35 p.m. Eastern time on January 7th on this Friday. So it may be the time when you listen to this that Justin Fry has been announced as the new head or the new offensive line coach at The Ohio State University. Coach Stud being gone, not the end of the world. There were things that have happening with this current offensive line that we even saw last year, where you think a guy should progress throughout the season, that he really doesn't show that growth, and he is no longer the weakest link, but it's a strong unit of 5, not a strong unit of 4 plus 1 weak link. Last year, this year, there were issues with the offensive line. They were there all season long. Coach Stud gone. Justin Fry might be in. Could we see Kevin Wilson work more with the O-line? These are all things. A final 2, Justin Fry, Kevin Wilson. Nothing set in stone. Could be set in stone very, very soon. Thank you so much for listening to this Feel Good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. Like I mentioned earlier, the Buckeyes do have a basketball game this Sunday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My calendar says it's on the Big Ten Network. I do not believe that channel has changed yet. So be in your place Sunday afternoon, afternoon into the evening, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time for another Buckeye basketball game. To date, there are 2 coaches that are part of the coaching staff in 2021 that are gone. Matt Barnes left. That was announced shortly after the conclusion of the Rose Bowl. Matt Barnes is now the defensive coordinator at the University of Memphis. Coach Stud, the offensive line coach, was fired. Justin Fry will possibly be in. That's a report that he'll possibly be in. But will we see more coaching changes to the Ohio State coaching staff? Looking primarily to the defense, because offensively, I don't think Tony Alford's going anywhere. Brian Hartline's not going anywhere. Kevin Wilson's not going anywhere. Who did I miss? Corey Dennis isn't going anywhere. Ryan Day absolutely ain't going nowhere. So if you think about all of those coaches there, your wide receiver, your OC, your tight ends coach, your QB, your running back, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. When it goes to the defense, though, the only coach that I think is absolutely safe is Larry Johnson. And there have been issues with the defensive line for the past couple of years. I think it's a lot of personnel situations, not so much him not doing his job. I just think the players are not the same players that they're projected to be when they were recruited to be at the Ohio State University. But when it comes to the other coaches there, Matt Barnes is gone. Kerry Combs got demoted. Al Washington, I believe, is still on the staff. Will we see more changes? I absolutely think we will. One, Kerry Combs, if he is going to be the DB's coach at Ohio State, I wonder, does Jim Knowles want him to be the DB's coach under his defense? Will Jim Knowles be able to hire the people that he wants to be coaching the players on his defense? One, I believe he will get that power. And then number 2, I don't think Kerry Combs will be here next year. And I still don't believe Al Washington should be here next year. We talk about Coach Stud and having a series or a period track record. That's the phrase. A track record of different issues that have not gotten away. Al Washington, I do believe he will not be here next year. If you think back to last year, the linebackers at Ohio State, Tuff Borland, Baron Browning, Pete Werner, and Justin Hilliard. I don't believe Ohio State played their best 4-3 defense last year, but I don't believe they played their best 3 linebackers during last season. I said it last year. I'm going to say it again this year. You take Tuff Borland out, move Baron Browning to the inside, you put Justin Hilliard on the outside. I do think that's a better trio of linebackers, Hilliard, Browning, and Werner, than Werner, Borland, and Browning. I definitely think Hilliard should have played last year. Honestly, should have started. I think was one of the better linebackers on the team, just he did not get that run. Think back to this year, how many linebackers played in the Rose Bowl? let's not talk about how many people played all year. How many played in the Rose Bowl? Do you know who the two best linebackers at Ohio State are? I don't think so. Because you may say, well, Jay, it's still Chambers and it's Cody Simon. Or it's still Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg. Or it's still Chambers and that guy Kate Stover who came over and played linebacker the final game of the year. Do you know who the two best linebackers are? Because what Al Washington has showed me, and if I can see it, I firmly believe Jim Knowles can see it. I believe Ryan Day can see it. I believe the associate head coach Larry Johnson can see it. If I'm seeing the things that are going on, I guarantee they're seeing this in the film room, and they're saying, how in the world are we having all these issues on defense? And I know the defensive line is what it is, but the linebackers, these guys can't get comfortable on the field because they're not being coached up to be just exactly what they should be. I'm confused by this, but I do think if we're talking about will we see more changes, I absolutely think so. Al Washington, I don't think Jim Knowles keeps him. I don't at all. And then number two, I don't think Kerry Coombs is going to Jim Knowles keeps him either. If this is going to be the type of defense when you're going to transition a defense in year two of a 4-2-5, get more of a traditional or a true 4-2-5 look with the 4-2-5 variations, I don't think Jim Knowles thinks Kerry Coombs can coach up the secondary. The secondary has been a liability the past couple of years under Kerry Coombs' watch. Well, Matt Barnes was here, but we all know that whole secondary defensive coordinator thing, play caller, whatever you want to call it, that was a whole jumbled mess throughout the season. It got better throughout the season, but it was a jumbled mess because there's a lot of confusion on that side of the ball. Two coaches I don't think will be here. Part of it's my speculation. Part of it is I don't believe Jim Knowles will want to keep those guys under his defense. Al Washington, Kerry Coombs, I do believe will be on the outside of this Buckeye coaching staff very, very soon. Feel Good Friday. Even though the Buckeyes lost, we can all feel good because they have another chance to take the court and get a win under their belt on Sunday afternoon going into the evening. You can follow me on Twitter at jsteven07. Remember this one thing. Hit the like button on this video. Hit subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Multiple things. Hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live. If you're watching via the audio version, Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review and a rating. We will start reading those on Fridays at the end of every show to just let more people know about the good things going on and how you are enjoying Locked On Buckeyes every day, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. For Jay Stevens, this is Locked On Buckeyes. We're out. I'll see you on Monday.